thinking about data. More than ever, our lives are driven and shaped and dictated to us by data. Which movie gets 7 sequels in the cinemas and which one goes straight to video? That's determined by data. Which kind of breakfast cereal you can pull off the shelf of your local grocery store? That's determined by data. Which advertisements and which posts you see in your social media accounts? That's determined by data. Data is driving the world like never before. And as the volume of information in our world increases exponentially, so does our reliance on someone or something to curate that information for us. And so then, by design or by accident, many of us end up stuck in what's been called a filter bubble, where we primarily read from and are influenced by the sources that are most closely aligned to our existing values, our existing interests. This gives us an ever-narrowing perspective and an ever-narrowing community that we interact with. This keeps us from learning, it keeps us from confronting new ideas, and it keeps us from relating to people who are different from us, and we begin to see them as the other. We can dehumanize them. We can treat them in ways we would never treat a person talking face to face. And the way that I get most convinced of the sinful, fallen nature of humanity is by reading the comments section of most social media sites. It's a depressing thing, but it reminds me of how much humanity needs a savior.
Yeah. So what does it even mean to be human? Now that might sound like a really silly question, especially in a state of the world talk. But it is one that is increasingly important for us as morals and ethics and science and technology push up against the boundaries. With new medical advances, virtual reality, ever-increasing lifespans, artificial intelligence, and with debates raging on the sanctity of human life, even on the nature of sexuality, forming a sound biblical worldview and ethic is essential for us.
And as we look ahead, we realize more and more that we are really in new territory as a species. The challenges that we face are staggering, they're unprecedented, and they're coming at us faster and faster and faster. Unprecedented change. Life is accelerating in almost every sphere that we see. And here's a great example that we came across. The Human Genome Project. The first human genome was sequenced in the year 2004. It took years to do, and it cost hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, in 2016, machines can sequence 18,000 genomes a year at the cost of $1,000 each. In 12 years, staggering change. Long-term planning becomes almost impossible with the rate of change that we see. And what that means is that nimbleness, adaptability, and flexibility win out over long-term strategic planning.
We see unprecedented complexity. The world is inextricably interconnected, and it's complex, and it's getting more so. It's increasingly impossible for any one person or even any one group to really understand how everything is fitting and working together.
Unprecedented uncertainty. We live in an age where we could wipe ourselves out with the push of a button or with the accidental release of a virus. We have the capacity to cause irreparable damage to our own environment only through our own greed and short-sightedness. No one is sure where this is all going, but the reality is that we will all be affected by it. On a more mundane level, you don't need to be a Shia Muslim living in Iraq to experience the predations of terrorism. You might be a Dallas police officer, you might be a train commuter in Brussels, you might be in transit at an Istanbul airport, in a coffee shop in Sydney, going to a concert in Paris, at a school camp in Norway, or in a school in China or the US or in Nigeria. It can happen to anyone, it can happen anywhere. And it's fascinating that we're so keyed in on this, because the reality is that our lives have never been more secure, our lives have never been more comfortable, and yet they've never been more precarious at the same time.
We also have unprecedented opportunity. Hey guys, it's not all bad news. We also have the capacity to do the most good we've ever been able to do. All these advances in technology, in communication, in more, can also translate into effective and rapidly deployable means of communicating the good news to more people